In this video, I'm going to show you how to multiband compress your master. Now, this is something I usually do towards the end just to glue everything together a little bit more and squeeze a bit more loudness out of it, and I've really had good results with this in the past. It's something that's really important not to push too far, otherwise it's going to end up sounding really, really bad. But with just a little bit of it, you'll be surprised how much you can get out of it. This is my multiband compressor that I like to use, FabFilter ProM. This is unfortunately a paid plugin, but I do think it's worth it. If you don't have it, you should be able to follow along just fine in Maximus. But let me show you the difference of what this does. So I'm going to delete that ProM and we'll do it from scratch so I could show you the process, because there's a couple of different settings you're going to want to pay attention to that otherwise you might not. So right now I've opened ProM and I like to split this into 3 bands. I'll do one for like my sub bass information, so everything below about 150 or so. Another one up until about maybe 5,000, so this is covering like the whole mid-range, and then another for the tops. These values are not an exact thing as well. This is something that might change depending on the tone of your track, and feel free to experiment with that. I like to solo the bands as I go, and I also like to visualize it by opening up an oscilloscope. Kind of like this, so that way as I listen to soloed bands, I can see that up here. So each time you're doing this, you're going to see a visual, and with the low end specifically, you're seeing all your sub bass, and especially you're seeing a little spike here, which is your kick drum, which should have a bit more thump than the rest of your low end. So that's something I like to preserve. I really like subtle compression on the master, so for example here you see my threshold. I like to dial it back a bit, so it's only just barely doing anything, same with the range. So something about here, it's not really doing too much, which is great, and then I like to just bring it back up to where it should be, which is even with this line, with the band level. So this is kind of like makeup gain. Now that's sitting where it should be, and if you look at our visual up here, the kick is hitting right up at the line and the rest is falling just under it, which is exactly what we want. Now we're going to do something similar with the mids. This one you could afford to push it a bit more if you want, if your song would like that. I know this song specifically does kind of like the sound of compression, so that's an okay thing to do. But let's dial it back. The default settings are still way too much. Something like that, bring it up. And then same for our tops. These ones you kind of want to be a little more careful with, because you'll probably have some transient information up here, like your hats that you want to preserve. And if you do, you could bump up your attack a bit, so that way those are still coming through nicely. And then bring it up. I'm probably doing that one the least. So now, if we hit play, you're going to notice a big difference, and we're not done yet. We still have another setting to change. But first, let's do off and then on. Now on. You can especially hear that in the tops. The tops sound a lot more compressed. I might even push this a bit further, just over here. We could afford it with our mids, I think. It's just a little bit of subtle glue. But something I like to do quite a bit is I don't like the effect of this at 100%. I want it to be more subtle, but I quite like my values that I've set. So what I do is I go down to this knob, and I change the mix slider from 100. I like to dial it back maybe about half, put it to like 50% or so. It really depends on the track. I think before I even had it at like 40. So that way it's only doing half of this effect. You could do this as you go. So nothing. 100. Or double it. The 200 is obviously way too much, but this track's kind of eating it, which is good. It likes it at really any value. That's a subtle mastering effect that I do quite often. To get my masters just a bit louder, I'll usually put it after one limiter and then limit again after, because you'll notice if you don't, you end up clipping a little bit if you do this. So I put on another clipper afterwards to bring that back down. And we're good. So that's my strategy here. I hope you guys like it. If this was helpful to you, please do drop a like and subscribe. That's going to wrap us up though. Thank you for watching. I will catch you in the next one.